Splatoon 2 Octo expansion is my favorite story in the Splatoon series. It not only introduces new elements to the world of Splatoon, but also expands upon what came before. It delivers a well-crafted, self-contained narrative that explores and challenges what we've known about this world as a whole up to this point, not just for us the viewer, but also the characters in the story. I'm very excited to talk about this, so without any further ado, let's discuss why I think Octo Expansion is the perfect Splatoon story. The game already starts out strong by allowing us to take control of an Octoling for the first time in the series, the same Octolings that we spent the first two story modes fighting against. Up until this point, they were presented as nothing more than the villains of the series. However, as we progress through the story and spend more time with 8, we learn that things aren't as black and white as it may seem. While 8 herself doesn't say a single line of dialogue, we still do get a sense of her views and personality. For one, Nintendo actually bothered to give her animations in the cutscenes. And while it seems like a small thing, and there isn't a lot of cutscenes in the game, it goes a long way in portraying 8 as her own character rather than just another surrogate for the player. But the biggest standout feature of 8's character comes from the mem cakes. They act as a sort of stand-in for her thoughts and feelings. We learn in the game that the mem cakes are pressed memories manifest in physical form. It's not clear as to whether or not these mem cakes are in fact 8's memories, though evidence in the story suggests they aren't, but it's irrelevant to the narrative. Regardless of whether or not they are in fact 8's memories, they still hold some significance to her. With each memcake comes a small 2 to 4 line poem of 8's thoughts towards the thing the memcake takes the form of. Thanks to these poems, we not only are able to piece together 8's character, but also works to characterize the Octarian army as a whole. My absolute favorite mem cake sets are definitely the ones from Subway Line A, B, and I, as these all directly connect to the stories that have come before this. With these mem cakes, we get a peek into 8's mind, with her poem for DJ Octavio stating that she wants more out of life, even giving Octavio an apology, showing that, while she doesn't want to follow him, she still respects him as her former leader. There is also the poem for the Octopod, where 8 expresses sadness for the life they're forced to live. The description of the Octopod is not something I can describe on YouTube, so you'll just have to read the poem yourself to understand. There's also the very first memcake on the list where 8 is expressing whether or not the constant fighting between Inklings and Octarians needs to continue. The more you look into the memcake poems, the more you notice a pattern of 8 questioning whether or not the path she was on was truly certain, going as far as to say that her old life feels like a trap, even mocking the life of some in the Octarian army. But ultimately, you get the feeling that all 8 wants is for everyone to live in peace, even wishing for Salmonids to get along with the Inkfish. With this, we can piece together that, when it comes to Inklings and Octolings, it's not as simple as Inklings good, Octolings bad, because surely if the character we play as has these feelings, there are others in the Octarian army that also feel the same, which is in fact the case. We know that Marina also wanted to escape from life in the underground, and thanks to the chat logs, we learned that others also escaped to the surface thanks to the calamari incantation being etched into their souls. It's a very deliberate thing that made the Octolings out to not seem so bad, and I think this is the heart of the story. Recognizing that not everything is black and white, and that just because we were told or conditioned to believe one thing does not mean that it's always the absolute truth, which we not only see explored in 8, but all the other characters in the story. To explore this idea further, I would like to take a look at the rest of the main cast, Captain Cuttlefish, Pearl, and Marina. A lot of their character growth happens in the chat logs we get sent the more tests we complete. I think Cuttlefish and Off the Hook have a great dynamic, because not only does it create some really funny moments, interacting with them also forces Cuttlefish to have a change in his way of thinking. It's through the chat logs that Cuttlefish and Pearl learn who Marina really is. But what I think is interesting is how they both react. While Cuttlefish has his guard up, as he always does when it comes to the Octarians, Pearl immediately argues Marina's case. Cuttlefish does trust Pearl pretty quickly, but it's clear in their next conversation that he's still pretty awkward about it. Not to mention later, he outright sounds the alarm when he hears of other Octolings escaping to the surface, as well as Pearl and Marina talking about them participating in turf war. This shows that while he still hasn't broken completely out of his old mentality, he is trying to make progress. After all, he befriended 8 and even grew to care about her and Marina. If I were to criticize the game on one thing, I would say I feel this specific side plot ends a bit too quickly. I think it would have been beneficial to have at least one extra log where Cuttlefish struggles a bit more with accepting this new view of the Octolings, and Marina's self-doubt about being an Octoling in Inkling society. Not to say that these elements aren't there, they are, but I personally would have liked the conclusion to be more gradual, as it ending as fast as it does makes it feel like the characters haven't actually fully overcome their flaws, which I feel is what we're supposed to believe they have by the end of the game. But you can argue that they aren't meant to have overcome everything completely at this point, and that's a totally valid reading of it. None of this ruins the story for me, and there's always a chance that they could return to this in later stories. We also have characters outside the main cast that are given development, giving more life to the story and setting of Octo expansion. Iso Padre being a personal favorite of mine. Despite him not having a prominent role throughout the story, his growth throughout it perfectly supports the themes it's trying to convey. When we're introduced to him, he has resigned himself to the Deep Sea Metro, believing he has no purpose, not even remembering his own name. But as the story progresses and we collect more memcake sets for him, he begins to regain hope for himself, becoming more and more impressed with our determination to complete all the tests, and eventually even believing that he could one day find a new purpose and leave the Metro himself, which, thanks to Splatoon 3, we now know that he eventually does find a new purpose and make his way to the surface, living among the sea creatures of Angopolis. It's a great ending to his story. 8, Cuttlefish, Off the Hook, and even Iso Padre are all challenged by the story to confront what they originally believe, and they all come out of it with a better understanding of the world and a new reason to continue fighting for it. All of this being in direct contrast to the main villain of Octo Expansion, the one who can only see the world as black and white and refuses to accept any reality of change. The one who runs Kamabo Corporation, Commander Tartar. Octo Expansion is unique in the sense that we meet the main villain right at the start of the game. Though we don't know he's the villain yet, I think the game does a good job of leaving clues as to what's going on throughout the environment. Right at the start of the game, the Metro appears normal, but the cracks start to show themselves the closer you look. Scattered equipment not at all being something a subway station needs, IV packs with an unknown substance in them, that same substance being injected into trees throughout the environment, and most apparent, Octarians being an unnatural green and blue color. It's not much, but enough to arouse suspicion in observant players. Already, we get a sense that the Deep Sea Metro is not what it seems, and that there's some kind of mask being put on to cover something, but exactly what that something is we don't know yet. This idea of masking also carries over to Tartar himself. Upon meeting us, he activates something called Contemporary Speech Mode, which is clearly meant to be him trying to imitate the speech of the Inkfish in order to seem friendly. But something is wrong with it. There are gaps in his knowledge, a bunch of missing phrases, as well as phrases that don't make any sense even for Splatoon standards. I think this is meant to hint at Tartar's attitude towards the current society early on. He doesn't care enough to even try to fit in properly, only giving a half-baked attempt at appearing to be part of the culture. Which of course he would. He's going to wipe them all out eventually. Why fully integrate into a society that will soon be gone? The game even plays this off for laughs with how exaggerated his speech gets, plus his main theme being so goofy sounding, almost clown-like in style, further sells the idea that he's not meant to be taken seriously. which is all done intentionally to conceal who Tartar truly is, which makes the twist hit even harder, the twist showing the true intentions of Tartar and Kamabo. The finale is where I think the game shines the most, not just because it carries the most emotional weight out of all the finales in the series, but also because of the environmental storytelling at play. The atmosphere is at its most tense here. We get to see the true inner workings of Kamabo and witness the process of sanitization, the reason why all the Octarians we faced are green and blue. It's also here where Tartar's mask starts to slip off. We see him start questioning why 8 would even think of sticking with her friends, which makes me wonder if even he was impressed with 8's skills. Regardless, we do manage to get out, but not before fighting a brainwashed Agent 3, which confirms to us at this point that Tartar is evil, while also leaving us wondering what exactly his plan is. But there's no time to think about that. We have to defend ourselves from Agent 3, fighting the very first character we ever played as in the franchise. We do beat her, and with her freed from the mind control and Cuttlefish safe, we finally make it out to the surface. While I won't get too far into it as it's not the focus of the video, I do want to quickly point out how the gameplay of Octo expansion really makes this moment hit hard. The difficult, grueling challenges, the countless attempts, the 8-ball levels somehow that we've had to endure, ending with us needing to effectively fight our past self in order to escape. All of that makes the ending more meaningful, as we've struggled the same way 8 likely struggled to get to where she is now. With all that behind us, we finally arrive at the surface with a phenomenal scene to show for it. The slow panning camera from 8's speechless reaction to the sky, those few steps forward she takes when exiting the facility, her moving her hair from her face due to the wind, and the triumphant yet beautiful track that whispers in the background is all we need to understand the emotion behind it. A perfectly crafted scene with no dialogue at all, just silence. Something I wish more stories nowadays would have. After taking it all in for a minute, we get picked up by Off the Hook, but the fight isn't over yet, as from the water emerges the facility that we just escaped from, revealing that we were actually inside of a human statue the whole time. Tartar finally catches up to us, and disabling contemporary speech mode, effectively removing the mask he's been wearing the whole game, reveals everything. What I immediately noticed about his motive for wiping out Inkling society is him pointing out flaws that mirror humans, which is another point towards the idea of the story portraying that things are not as they seem. This is something that I think puts Octo expansion ahead of its time. Much like how the AI of our world can't actually create anything new, but can only create off of what it's been trained on, Tartar is the only one who can't ever let go of his way of thinking, believing that just because Inkfish society shares a lot of the same flaws that humans did, such as fighting over seemingly pointless topics, it means they're destined to destroy themselves the same way the humans did. But as we've been shown throughout the game, that's not the case at all. All the characters we've met throughout the game prove this. Ironically, even the Deep Sea Metro proves this. It still continues to function even after Tartar is gone and Kamabo is left in disarray. Yes, the creatures of this future may share many of humans' flaws, but they are also more susceptible to learn, change, and unite, which we see in full force as 8 and the others team up one last time to stop Tartar, once and for all, in perfect harmony. Defeated and shutting down, Tartar uses his last moments calling out to the professor that created him, longing for their reunion, doubling down on his stubbornness to let go of what he knows, the same stubbornness that led to his demise, while our main characters, united, stand in celebration of their newfound friendship, and the confidence that they can now live to experience life another day. Octo expansion is an excellent story that pushes the boundaries of what Splatoon can offer to the table with its storytelling. It wasn't afraid to dig in and challenge the beliefs of its characters, to which I applaud it for. I think it achieved what it set out to do flawlessly, and it's one of the many stories that I think back on fondly. The only thing that disappoints me is that future stories in the series weren't able to capture the same magic Octo expansion could, which I do plan to talk about in future videos in this series. But Splatoon Raiders is coming out in a few days, as of recording this video, so my next few videos will be my playthrough on that, and then I'll get to discussing the stories in Splatoon 3. If you're excited for all of that, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on anything. I'm really happy with how this video turned out and can't wait to continue this story discussion series. With all that being said, let me know what you think about Octo Expansion's story in the comments. I'd be very interested to hear your opinion, as long as you keep it respectful. But that's all I have to say, so thank you all for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video.